Jordan Peterson, the controversial University of Toronto psychology professor, best-selling author, and ardent First Amendment champion, who once told his fellow Canadian academics that he's a true speech advocate, has threatened to sue an American professor over a tweet that he deems defamatory. Now, Jordan Peterson is an icon of the alt-right, particularly the incels and the MRA movement. Now, he's a 56-year-old man who does seem, at least in my opinion, to hate women, has been retweeted by the hateful likes of people like Richard Spencer. So he's not some small guy. I mean, I'm assuming my audience has already heard about him before. Now, he was tweeted by Wendy Lynn Lee, who is a liberal professor at Bloomsburg University in Pennsylvania, and apparently her words were so hurtful, and he took them so personally and found they were defamatory that he's decided to file a lawsuit. On November 30th, 2016, she wrote a blog post about using flag burning as a form of protest against the election of Donald Trump. Now, on May 31st, she tweeted to nearly about 300 people. She said that Peterson was a committed white nationalist and an incel misogynist. Now, Peterson is well known to target people who advocate for Marxism and what he calls the Marxist lie of white privilege, which is very interesting because privilege theory comes from modern-day liberals, not 1850s political economists. Of course, that seems to be a problem with him. He can't seem to understand that. Unfortunately, privilege theory is espoused by a lot of so-called Marxists, but it is not a part of Marxism itself. Now, the married father of 2 adult children, now, by definition, he can't accurately be described as an involuntary celibate. I mean, this claim is absolutely untrue. But could we really say that it's defamatory? I don't think so. It's childish. It's an insult, but I don't really think it's defamatory. But in the very least, it's the one accusation against him that is demonstrably false. Now, there was an attorney, Howard Levitt, who works on behalf of Peterson, apparently, who sent an email threatening to sue her for libel unless she deleted what he calls a defamatory post and tweeted an apology. Please immediately retract all of your defamatory statements, have them immediately removed from the internet, and issue an apology in the same forum to Mr. Peterson. Lee quickly did as Levitt instructed, saying the legal threat both stunned and frightened her. As per threat to sue for legal libel, I hereby apologize to Jordan Peterson for referring to him as an involuntary celibate, an incel, a misogynist, a committed white nationalist, and someone who has descended into rank bigotry. Now, what we do have to admit is that to some degree what she has said is not true, and that is particularly referring to the incel portion. Now, I do think that he is a white nationalist. I do think that he is a raging misogynist, so I would have to agree with her on that, and this is my opinion. Now, it's not like that I haven't faced this before. Several years ago, the liberal professor, one of the guys who was in charge of the slut walk, Hugo Schweizer, threatened to sue me for the very same thing. He said that he was going to threaten me that if I didn't take down a post, that he was going to sue me for libel. Of course, a libel lawsuit across international borders, which is also the same in this case, is usually actually quite expensive. That's not an easy thing to do. So I have been the victim of this kind of thing before, but you know, a lot of people really don't have that much sympathy for Peterson, given, you know, a lot of the inflammatory things that he's actually said. Now, it is interesting that he has threatened to sue while saying that he is a free speech advocate. Now, we do have to walk a very difficult line here. What is the difference between free speech and what is defamatory? What is libel? Now, I do think a lot of the accusations leveled against him by Lee are absolutely true. But I also think that Lee is a raging liberal asshole and did descend into name-calling in order to do that, which is why I just did it right now. So, I mean, this is one of those, like, really crazy situations where nobody really has any sympathy for either side in this situation, or anybody who's really being objective. I mean, they're both, like, obnoxious to me. But, I mean, I sincerely doubt there would be a lawsuit coming out about that. I mean, it really wouldn't be worth it. As a liberal college professor, she very likely doesn't have any money whatsoever. But she does seem like, after having scrolled her Twitter, she does seem like the obnoxious, self-righteous type. So I wouldn't be terribly upset if she was sued. But I mean, in this situation, does it really matter? Is it really important in any way, shape, or form? But I think that the only real issue we can probably take away from this is, how does freedom of speech work? I mean, nobody really believes in an absolutist definition of freedom of speech. Now, if somebody did, or they claimed it, they should be locked up for being a threat to children. I mean, if you do believe that types of pornography which target children, youth, children, etc., are a legitimate form of speech, you should be in prison. And if you're an absolutist in freedom of speech, you are saying that's okay. Because nobody really believes in absolute freedom of speech. Everybody believes in censorship to some degree or another, against certain ideas or another. So this holier than thou attitude of somebody going, well, I'm really about free speech, should be taken with a huge grain of salt and have an asterisk put to the end of it. We all have our conceptions of what people should and what should not be allowed to say. That's why the capitalist definition of free speech and what they actually lock people up for saying is different than what it is that you would have under socialism, because there's different values, different societal goals, etc. So, Jordan Peterson, by no means, is no champion of freedom of speech. Frankly, I think he's just a racist asshole. But, I mean, come on, nobody is a pure free speech advocate, because such a thing, frankly, is unfeasible. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.